I never meant to fall for her, especially not that night. Not when she was wearing that wine-colored dress that clung to her like it knew every inch of her. Not when she was standing across the room laughing beside her sister, the bride. Should have been enough to stop me, but it wasn't. Because when Samantha looked at me, really looked at me, it felt like my past and future collided in a single heartbeat. And suddenly, couldn't remember why she was off-limits only, that she was the only thing I could see in a room full of champagne, string lights, and white roses. The thing is, I'd known Claire for almost a decade. She was safe, stable, beautiful in that picture frame kind of with, the kind of woman you build a life with. It's not one you dream about in the middle of the night. We'd been friends since college. And when she asked me to stand beside her at the altars, one of Evan's groomsmen, I said yes, thinking it would be just another wedding. But the second I saw Samantha walk down the aisle behind her sister, I knew I was in trouble. She was different. Not just in how she looked, though, God. That alone could have broken me, but in how she carried herself. Like she'd been away from this world too long and had only just come back for a quick visit. I hadn't seen her in years. The last time, she was 22, flipping off her parents in a leather jacket before disappearing to chase some wild dream in LA. Everyone whispered about her at family events. Where's Sam now? Rehab. Another failed job. Claire didn't talk about her much, but I remembered. I remembered her sharp tongue, those long legs that stretched across the hood of her dad's car. The way she used to tease me just enough to make my pulse race. Back then, I was with someone, Melissa. We were engaged. It didn't last. Maybe it was because I knew deep down I never felt that fire with her. Not the kind I felt tonight. At the reception, I tried not to watch her. Failed. She floated around the room like a secret no one else noticed. I talked to old friends, made small talk with Evan's uncles, smiled through the speeches, but my eyes kept finding her, and hers kept finding me. There was a moment during Claire's father's toast when I turned and caught her already staring. She didn't look away, didn't pretend to be embarrassed. She just tilted her head slightly, lips curling like she knew exactly what she was doing to me. And I felt it right then, something shift, something dangerous and heavy and inevitable. After dinner, I stepped outside to clear my head, just a few minutes of cool air to break the spell. I lit a cigarette, even though I quit years ago, and let the smoke settle into my lungs. That's when I heard her heels on the stone path behind me. She didn't say anything right away, just stood there beside me, arms crossed. "You still smoke?" she asked. I shrugged. "Only when I'm trying not to make a bad decision." "Funny," she said, taking the cigarette from my lips and dragging on it like she'd done it 1,000 times. I was just about to make one. I laughed more to break the tension than because it was funny. She handed the cigarette back, and our fingers brushed. Just a second. But it felt like it echoed through my whole body. Her eyes held mine, and I saw the storm there. Pain, hunger, loneliness, maybe even recognition. "So," she said, stepping a little closer, "what are you doing out here, Maddie? No one called me that anymore. Not since college." It's the way she said it. Soft, teasing, familiar, brought back memories I didn't know I still had. Hiding, I admitted. From what? I looked at. Her really looked you. She smirked. But it didn't reach her eyes. You always were the smart one. We stood there for a long beat, just the two of us, and the sound of distant music and clinking glasses. I knew I should have walked away, gone back inside, found someone safe to talk to, like Claire's mother or Evan's brother. But instead, I leaned against the stone wall and said, "You're different." "You're not," she said, voice softer now. "You're still the good guy, still loyal, still pretending you don't want what you want, and that was it." That was the moment I should have known I was already in too deep. But I didn't leave. I didn't run. I stayed. We talked for another hour about nothing, about everything, about the people we used to be and the lives we thought we'd have by now. She told me she came back because she had nowhere else to go. I told her I wasn't sure I ever left. And when the newlyweds finally left in a flurry of sparklers and shouted goodbyes, the crowd thinned and the night turned quiet. She reached for my tie, tugged it loose like it belonged to her. "You coming up?" she asked. I should have said no, I didn't. And that was the night everything I thought I knew about love, loyalty, and the line between right and wrong went up in flames. Asterisk, she didn't speak as we walked through the hotel lobby, the midnight hush wrapping around us like a secret. Her bare feet made no sound against the marble floor, heels dangling from 2 fingers, swinging rhythmically like the pendulum of a clock counting down to disaster. I followed, my body tense, my mind screaming at me to stop. This was wrong. She was Claire's sister, Claire, who had trusted me enough to call me family. Claire, who had cried in my arms the night before the wedding, terrified she wasn't enough for Evan. Claire, who had looked at me with so much gratitude when I gave. The toast that made the entire room tear up. I shouldn't have followed Samantha. I shouldn't have wanted to. But when she glanced back at me before sliding her keycard into the door, its lit with something reckless and awry, felt like gravity itself had changed direction. Pulling me toward her helpless. Her hotel room was dim, quiet, untouched. The curtains were drawn, casting long shadows across the king-size bed and the champagne bottle abandoned on the nightstand. She dropped her shoes by the door and turned to me, breathing shallow. For a second, I thought she might say something, ask me if I was sure, maybe give me one last chance to walk away. But she didn't. Instead, she crossed the space between us in 2 steps, slid her hands around the back of my neck and kissed me like she'd been waiting years for this moment. It wasn't a gentle kiss. There was no hesitance. It was hot, hungry, and full of all the things we'd never said out loud. Her mouth tasted like red wine and a hint of regret, but I kissed her back just the same. My hands found her waist, pulling her closer, feeling the softness of the dress she'd worn for her sister's wedding. I told myself I'd stop at any moment, that I'd regain control, come to my senses, but the truth is, I didn't want to. Not when she was pressed against me like that. Not when her fingers were in my hair and her breath was shaky against my skin. Clothes came off slowly at first, as if we were still pretending to have a shred of restraint, but it didn't last. Her dress hit the floor with a whisper, and my jacket followed, then my shirt. She looked up at me with a heat in her eyes that made everything else disappear. She wasn't the rebel kid anymore, and I wasn't the good guy everyone trusted. We were just 2 people aching in all the same places, using each other to forget everything we shouldn't be feeling when we fell into bed. It wasn't perfect. It was messy, rushed, desperate. But it was real. Every touch, every gasp, every whispered name between clenched teeth felt like a confession. She pulled me in like she was afraid I'd vanish. I held her like I was afraid I'd break her. It didn't feel like sex. It felt like war and surrender all at once. Her skin was warm and trembling beneath my hands, her mouth tracing frantic lines across my neck, my jaw. We didn't talk. Words would have ruined it. We just moved in rhythm, like we'd been waiting our whole lives for this night. We weren't supposed to have. After we lay tangled in the sheets, silence folding around us. The only sound was our breathing, slowly steadying. The room was dim, but I could still see the outline of her face, turned away, staring at the ceiling like it might offer some kind of answer. I reached for her, fingers brushing her shoulder, but she flinched just slightly, but enough to make my chest tighten. "She's your sister," said finally, my voice barely more than a whisper. "I know," she replied, her tone flat. "She just got married tonight." Another pause. "I know, Matt." I wanted to say more. I wanted to apologize, to justify, to make sense of what we'd just done. But every word felt hollow in my mouth. I sat up slowly, resting my head in my hands. Guilt washed over me, thick and nauseating. And yet I didn't regret it, not fully, because underneath the shame was something else. Something I hadn't felt in years. "I'm sorry," I said, though I wasn't sure what for. For doing it, for liking it, for not stopping her. She rolled onto her side and looked at me. Her expression was unreadable. Her voice cracked a little. When she finally spoke, "Do you know what it's like growing up in someone else's shadow?" Claire was always the good one, the perfect one, everyone's favorite. I was always the mess, the embarrassment. And now she gets the dream life, the big wedding, the guy with the steady job, and the clean smile. I came back for her, to try. But for one damn night, I just wanted to feel like I was enough for someone. "You are," I said too quickly. She shook her head. "No, I'm not. Don't lie to me, Matt. I can take the truth. I've lived in it longer than most people even look at it." I reached for her again, more gently this time. She didn't pull away. "You weren't just enough." "Tonight," I said, my voice hoarse, "you were everything." She didn't respond. Her eyes shimmered, but no tears fell. She lay her head on my chest like it was the last safe place in the world, and I held her until sleep came. I thought about all the lines we'd crossed, all the fallout that was surely coming, but still, I couldn't bring myself to regret it. Not when she was wrapped in my arms like she belonged there. Not when, for the first time in years, I felt something real, something terrifying, something I already knew I couldn't walk away from. Asterisk, the morning light was cruel. It crept through the sheer hotel curtains, touching every piece of discarded clothing, every wrinkle in the sheets, every truth we'd tried to ignore the night before. Samantha was still asleep beside me, her breathing soft and even. One arm slung across my chest like she hadn't meant to let go. I lay there staring at the ceiling, the weight of what we'd done pressing down like a cinder block on my ribs. I didn't feel like the guy everyone thought I was, not the responsible friend, the loyal groomsman, the man who gave advice at rehearsal dinners and walked grandmothers to their seats. I felt like a fraud, worse, like a coward. The guilt didn't come in a wave, settled in slowly, seeping into every corner of my brain until even her warmth beside me couldn't keep it out. I should have felt used, or angry, or at least detached, but I didn't. I felt tethered to her, irrevocably, inexplicably. I knew this wasn't just about sex. Something had shifted between us, and now everything in my life felt like it had cracked wide open. I slipped out of bed as quietly as I could. Her body stirred slightly, but she didn't wake. I stared at her for a moment, really looked. Face was peaceful now, softer than I'd ever seen it. But I also saw the dark smudges under her eyes, the signs of someone who'd been running too long with nowhere to land. I got dressed slowly, not because I wanted to stay, but because I didn't know how to leave. Every button felt like betrayal. Every step toward the door felt heavier than the last. Before I left, I scribbled a quick note on the hotel notepad. "Last night wasn't nothing. If you need me, call." It felt cheap and insufficient, but it was all I had. Days passed, she didn't call. I kept waiting, checking my phone like an addict, but there was nothing. I started to convince myself it had been a one-time thing, that she'd meant what she said about it not mattering. But even as I tried to return to normal, the memory of her haunted me. I couldn't concentrate at work. I couldn't sleep. I saw her in the curve of strangers' smiles, heard her laugh in echoes across sidewalks. Every part of me was stuck in that hotel room. Then, about a week later, Claire called me. I knew something was wrong the second I heard her voice. It cracked on the first word. "Matt, Claire, what is it?" "It's Sam," she said, her breath catching. She told me she's pregnant." Everything inside me stopped. "I had to sit down," she said. She said, "It's yours." My hands went numb. My pulse roared in my ears. I wanted to ask how she knew, how Samantha could be sure after just one night. But I didn't, because I knew. There was no one else. There couldn't have been. Claire was crying now, soft and confused and betrayed, but not in the way she would be if she knew the full truth. Not yet. She won't talk to me. She shut me out completely. I don't understand why she's doing this now after everything. After the wedding, I couldn't breathe. "I thought maybe you'd reach out to her," Claire added. She listens to you. I nearly laughed at the irony. She had no idea how much Samantha had listened to me that night, how much of myself I'd given her. Claire still believed I was safe. Good, solid ground. We'll try, I said, my voice thin. When we hung up, I sat in my apartment for hours trying to figure out what to do. I thought about telling Claire the truth, about facing the fallout like a man. But every version of that ended with pain. Hers, mine, Samantha's. No one came. Out clean. So instead, I called Samantha. She didn't answer. Kai called again. Nothing. I texted her once. I know. We need to talk. No reply. By the next morning, I was in my car, driving 3 hours outside the city to a small town her family used to visit in the summers. It was a long shot. But I remembered her saying something in passing about a cabin she sometimes escaped to when everything got too loud. I followed that memory like a breadcrumb trail, and by some miracle or maybe Fatai found her. The cabin was tucked in the woods, modest and weathered. Her car was parked outside. I knocked on the door, not knowing what I'd say, what version of myself would show up once it opened. She looked different when she answered, pale, tired, beautiful, but frayed at the edges like something precious, worn too thin. "You shouldn't be here," she said, voice flat. I had to come. She let me in, reluctantly. The place smelled like wood smoke and coffee. There were empty mugs on the table and a stack of baby books she'd clearly started but hadn't opened again. "You told Claire," I said. "She needed to know," Samantha replied, arms folded protectively across her chest. "I didn't tell her about you. Why not?" "'Cause I'm not trying to blow up her life more than I already have." "You didn't blow it up alone," I said. She looked at me then, eyes sharp. "Do you think that makes this better?" "No," I admitted, "but I'm not running. I want to be part of this, whatever this is." She scoffed. "You think you can just show up and fix this?" "I don't want to fix it," I said. "I just don't want you to go through it alone." She stared at me for a long moment, something flickering behind her eyes. Hope, maybe, or fear. Finally, she whispered, "I don't know how to let you in without losing everything else." "Then lose it," I said, stepping closer. "And we'll build something new." She didn't answer. She didn't push me away. And in that moment, in the quiet of that broken little cabin, I realized something I hadn't allowed myself to admit before. I loved her. God help me. I did, even if everything else burned. I loved her. Then I wasn't going anywhere. The fragile peace we had found in that cabin shattered faster than I ever expected. Just when I thought Samantha and I could start navigating the impossible, the truth came crashing down like a storm we never saw coming. It began with a text innocent, enough, at first, from Claire. She didn't know everything, but she knew enough to be scared. She wanted to meet, to talk, to figure out how her sister could be pregnant and why I hadn't told her sooner. I wanted to be honest, but the words got stuck in my throat, tangled in the mess of guilt and shame I carried. When I finally told Samantha about Claire's call, her face went pale, her eyes hardening like steel. "You promised me you wouldn't." "Get her involved," she said, voice low and trembling. I wanted to say it was never my intention, but the damage was done. That was the first crack in what little trust we had left. We tried to hold on to each other after that, but everything felt brittle. I was torn between two women I cared for deeply, and the weight of that tore me apart. Claire, hurt and confused, became a stranger in my world, a reminder of the consequences I couldn't escape. Samantha, wounded and guarded, kept pulling away whenever I tried to reach her. The pregnancy became a constant shadow between us, her growing belly a silent testament to a night none of us were prepared for. I watched her wrestle with fear, anger, and shame, but also something fierce, a determination not to be broken by. This I admired her for it, even as I knew I was part of what threatened to unravel her. One night, the city lights blurred behind the rain-streaked window of her apartment, Samantha finally broke down. The walls she'd built crumbled as she confessed the darkest secret she'd carried since she returned. Before that wedding night, she'd been fighting a battle with addiction, the very thing everyone whispered about but rarely faced head-on. She'd been clean for months, but the stress of the wedding, the expectations, and the past catching up had nearly crushed her. Our night together wasn't just passion or desperation, it was a moment of seeking comfort in the only person she thought could understand the chaos inside her. Hearing her story shattered me. I wanted to protect her, to save her. But I also realized I couldn't fix what she needed to fix herself. Then came the betrayal, the thing that cut deepest. Just when I thought we could make it work, I found a message on her phone. A simple text from a man named Ryan, someone from her past who had never really let go. The words were casual but clear. "You owe me. Don't forget that." My chest tightened as the implications sank in. Samantha had been hiding more than just her addiction. I confronted her gently, but the hurt in her eyes was undeniable. She confessed that Ryan had been threatening her, trying to pull her back into a dangerous world she desperately wanted to escape. She hadn't told me because she was scared I'd leave, scared I'd judge her, scared of losing the one person she was starting to trust. That night, I made a decision. I told her I wasn't going anywhere, that we'd face this together, no matter how dark the road ahead. But Samantha wasn't convinced. The guilt, the secrets, and the chaos weighed heavily on her, and she pushed me away in the days that followed. Claire, too, was grappling with her own pain betrayal of a different kind. When she finally confronted me, tears streaming down her face, she said the words that broke something inside me. "I trusted you, Matt. How could you do this to my family?" The betrayal wasn't just about the pregnancy or the affair, it was about trust, loyalty, and the lines I'd crossed. I had no answers that could make it better. Yet, amidst the rubble, a fragile hope remained. Samantha and I started attending counseling, trying to rebuild the broken pieces. The pregnancy progressed, and with it came new challenges: doctors, appointments, fears about the future, and the complicated dance of blending our fractured families. We fought often, said things we regretted, and sometimes wondered if this was all too much. But through it all, there were moments of tenderness, soft kisses in the kitchen, whispered promises in the dark, the warmth of a hand held tightly when the world felt like it was falling apart. Those moments reminded me why I stayed. Why? Despite the pain and betrayal, I believed in us. The day Samantha gave birth, I felt everything at once: fear, love, hope, and a fierce protectiveness I hadn't known I was capable of. Holding that tiny, perfect life in my arms, I knew the road ahead wouldn't be easy, but it would be ours. And maybe, just maybe, the wounds we carried could heal with time. The wedding night that had started it all was no longer a secret shadow, but the beginning of something complicated, messy, and real. And in the end, I chose her not just as the bride's sister, but as the woman who shattered my world and rebuilt it in a way I never imagined possible.